Since 1934, Iowa's farmers have turned to the Iowa Farm Bureau spokesman as their trusted news source. Now, the Spokesman Speaks. Listen in and hear from leading experts on topics important to farmers and agriculture. Now, here's your host.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Spokesman Speaks podcast. I'm Caitlin Lamb, and today we're wrapping up our special 3-part podcast series featuring this year's Iowa Farm Bureau Young Farmer Leadership Award winners. Last night at Iowa Farm Bureau's annual meeting and County Leadership Conference, we had the honor of recognizing these 3 outstanding young farmers: Devon Murray, Randy Francois, and Blake Anderson. Today, you'll get to meet Blake. He's an Adams County farmer, ag teacher, FFA advisor, and a dedicated community volunteer. Truly, agriculture is woven into just about everything he does.
It is a piece of me, and I always want it to stay a piece of me. Even if at some point I'm not able to farm and I just have a garden, I'm still able to be an agriculturalist with that little piece of farming. That
passion for agriculture, in all its forms, is what makes Blake such a powerful advocate for the next generation of farmers. Let's jump into our conversation on his family farm near Nottoway. Blake, thanks so much for having me out, and congrats on winning this great award.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to get it, and it's a good recognition of everything that happens in Southwest Iowa.
Well, you're a great representative. And why don't you go ahead and tell me about your family farm and your background?
I grew up here on the family farm by Nottoway, Iowa, in Southwest Iowa, and it's a multi-generation family farm. My great-grandparents moved here in 1946, and we've been here ever since, so it's been kind of a nice thing. We do raise corn and soybeans and hay on the farm, and then have a cow-calf operation as well.
And then off the farm, you also hold a really important role in the community.
Yeah, so I am one of 2 7 through 12 agriculture education instructors at Southwest Valley Schools in Corning and Villisca. So I get to start my day at the middle school with 7th and 8th graders, and then I go to the high school and spend the rest of the time with high schoolers.
And you mentioned your family farm legacy, but it sounds like your family also has an educator legacy. Can you tell me about that?
Yes. So actually in my classroom at the high school, I'm the 4th Mr. Anderson. My dad and both of his brothers taught industrial arts at Corning High School, and then I took over and am an ag teacher, but I still teach some of those classes as well. And then on my mom's side, my grandma was a teacher at Corning Schools, and then my mom was a para in the elementary as well. So lots of education, always teaching, and always going ahead and sharing our story as well.
Yeah. Was that something, because you had all of these family members who were educators and you were close to that, is it something you always thought that you would do, or were you going to be like a rebel at one point, break the cycle?
I actually didn't want to be a teacher. I wanted to be a banker. And so I was sitting with my banker the senior year of school, going through finances and those types of things, getting ready to buy some more cattle. And he's like, I was an ag teacher for several years before I got into banking. And so he's like, you learn all sorts of things, and you have really good skills that you develop as a teacher, and you can do whatever you want to. And then I student taught, and then went through the process, and I just fell in love working with kids and sharing real life knowledge with the kids and making sure that they understand where their food and their fiber and their fuel come from and how Iowa plays a big part in their everyday life.
And working with kids day in and day out, sometimes there's this perception about who kids are today, just like there is with any generation, millennials knocking on boomers, Gen Z knocking on millennials. So I'm curious what you think these future ag students kind of look like right now and where their passions are.
That's a really good question, because I have that conversation with my dad and my uncle different times. What were the kids like when you started teaching back in the 60s and 70s? And really, the kids haven't changed a whole lot. We think about technology being part of it, but when you look at the kids themselves, they really want to learn. They really want to have good relationships with teachers and their fellow students. And my kids right now, the farm kids, they want to figure out how they can move forward with the family farm and join the family family farm as a full-time occupation. And then the kids that aren't interested in going to the farming route, they see the need for agriculturalists and advocates as well. So I have lots of kids that don't want to go into ag, but they still want to tell the story and say, in Corning, Iowa, we have really, really good livestock producers, and we follow that all the way through to the locker in town, and then we have a high-quality meat store there in town as well. And so go check that out, or go eat at the local restaurants where you're getting food from the family farms.
We need all types of people out there. We need the farmers, we need the people who support farmers, and then we need the people who support all of agriculture, certainly in this local community. And just to unpack some of those things, one thing that you talked about in your application was connecting people who do want to farm with older farmers or retiring farmers.
We have the Rural Development Committee with the Adams Community Economic Development, and we really wanted to build a connection to livestock production. We provide livestock animals, pigs and sheep, chickens. We've tried cattle, but it doesn't work quite as well, to 4-Hers and FFA members for 3 years, and then they get to show those, get a taste of it. Majority of those kids go ahead and continue on in the livestock industry, so getting that started at a younger age, but then also building those connections. My nephew wants to farm, and so he helps a lot of older generation farmers that their kids have moved away, and they need that physical labor, so he helps those farmers, and he's hoping someday that he'll be able to have that connection to be able to take on their family farm as well. So encouraging that aspect of it. And then one thing through school, we always like to promote how to get into farming. And so with the lending officers in the area, we try to build that connection because we know farmers need a lot of capital to get started. So if we can introduce them now, they can have that connection with a lender in the future, and then hopefully be able to continue on and stay here and keep Adams County and Southwest Iowa growing with young people.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've really thought about this in terms of what are all the pieces to this puzzle. You have the lending, you have the retiring farmers who might need some assistance, but then also you have these young people who might not be exposed to agriculture quite yet. And so to kind of spark that passion. And one thing that I've talked to you about even prior to this was the Watch Me Grow program.
Yeah, so Watch Me Grow is a collaborative effort with Poet Biorefining here in Corning, and all 4th graders in Corning Elementary, they get to go out in the spring and they plant their own row of corn. And so they get to watch that row of corn growing throughout the growing season. And then in the fall, they go back out, harvest it, and then they get to sell it to Poet. And then they go through Poet and see the delivery process, and then the process of turning it into ethanol, and then the distiller's grain as well. And then they come back out and they have a dinner type thing. So it's really good education for the kids to see that process, but the items also go home to the parents. So we're educating the kids, but we're also educating the parents as well.
And it sounds like you've talked about an emphasis on livestock and Corning, that you plan to add that component as well.
Yes. Yep. And that's one thing, our goal right now, and we've kind of got it developed ready for next school year. The 5th graders then will get to be connected with a farmer, livestock farmer, and they will get to see how that dry distiller's grain or the wet distiller's grain is fed to livestock animals, and then the cow-calf operation type of a deal. And then we have a cattle feeder here by Nottoway, and we'll get to have those kids see how those cattle are raised up, and then working with the locker to see what type of aspect they want to see of that, and then go to the Fire and Salt and see the retail side of it, and then end up with a hamburger lunch in Central Park. So getting that full circle from the corn all the way to their plate in a couple of different ways.
Yeah, so when you say get a taste of it, literally.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that is just such a well thought out program, and one that I'll just say I wish that adults could do too, just to see from the seed all the way to all these end products. I think there would just be so many ahas for them, but I'm really, really grateful that you're providing this opportunity for youth.
And we're hoping sometime to expand that with our rural development. We do offer different tours, so when people come through, we do line them up with different farmers in the area. If they check that on their tourism that they want to go see, then we make sure that that happens as well.
And you mentioned Farm Bureau being a part of this initiative. So tell me about your involvement with your local county Farm Bureau.
I've been involved with the Adams County Farm Bureau since 2010 and been on the board since 2012. I was a board member and then I started working my way up. I became the vice president, learned all the roles there, and then moved into president and enjoyed working with other presidents and making sure Adams County kept on moving forward in the realms of Farm Bureau, and enjoyed the trips that I went on with those, and then moved into voting delegate. And I also was part of Ag Leaders in 2018. And then I've been part of the farm team training, which is a really good opportunity. And then back in 2013, I went to Ukraine and Romania with Farm Bureau in the first market study tour. Really got involved with it through the education aspect of it. My parents and my grandparents all were Farm Bureau members, so I knew what was all about. A lot of people see the building on Main Street and they think insurance right away because both logos are up there.
Yeah.
And we've really tried to expand that and show what Adams County Farm Bureau, the board, does to promote agriculture and to promote our policy and rural lifestyles. So some of the things that we've done is our First Friday Barbecue, which is a free community event that our chamber hosts, and we have adopted that for July. And we do the promotion. We feed them a really good meal. This year it's going to be brisket mac, apple crisp, and carrots. It gives us an opportunity just to interact and ask questions, answer questions, and really bring a face to who the Adams County Farm Bureau is.
And even outside of Iowa Farm Bureau and your local county farm bureau, there was a whole list of things that you either have been or are involved in the community. And obviously you farm, you're an educator. And then I'm looking at this list, I'm like, how does Blake have time? So how do you prioritize the things that you choose to put your commitment toward?
And that's kind of a difficult thing, of course. I'm very thankful for my family, my sister and my parents, and then my sister and my brother-in-law and my niece and nephew. They really help on the farm as well, and they take care of a lot of things when I'm gone. So that's one really great thing. But then it's kind of whatever is most near and dear to my heart at that time period. I use a calendar and I book myself out and really try to make sure that I commit to things, but then don't overcommit with it as well. Here recently, we had our church's 70th celebration, so all of last week was dedicated just to making sure everything was taken care of the church and all that type of stuff. So kind of chunking it and making sure that I get everything done in the timely manner. And sometimes it's a lot of late nights working on emails back and forth in the middle of the night. So
yeah. And it certainly sounds like a lot of the things that you do involve yourself in. They're well connected, from agriculture to education to the focus on youth and looking forward into the next generation. What types of goals do you have for, both your family farm and your career as an educator?
for the family farm, I hope to continue it and not lose the family farm. That's always a good goal.
It's a good goal.
But then to expand it a little bit as well. Conservation is a big piece of our family farm. My great-grandpa was really a believer of it back in the 40s and implemented some things. And I continue to build more terraces and cover crops and rotational grazing and different things to make sure that I take care of the ground and leave it just as good, if not better, for the next generation. And then in my career, I just hope to continue to make a really good impact on the kids. I do have some goals of doing some more state leadership opportunities and expanding my reach and opportunities to influence more people's lives. And that might come as a little role or it might come as a big role. You never know. And you always approach those day by day.
What have you guys added throughout the years on your land that is helping with soil health and water quality?
Terraces are a really big help. We live in the rolling hills of southwest Iowa, and so we've always worked with contour planting, but then adding in the terraces to help stop that water and collect it and funnel it away has really been beneficial. We've seen a lot less erosion with that, and then also making sure that we have our grass waterways in areas that we don't have terraced, and then headlands so that we're not farming straight up and down the hills. Cover crops has been a new addition. We like the cover crops for the use of the nutrients, also building up some soil matter, but then to use it for livestock feed as well. We turn the cattle out and graze it down and then go in and plant. And it's been a twofold process with that to help some of our pastures also grow up with that. Rotational grazing is also a conservation practice that we utilize, making sure that we utilize all of the grass in the areas of our pastures. And then water control of utilizing ponds. I was able to build a new pond, and it has helped the ditch heal and be able to be sustainable, as well as offer water for our cattle as well.
As we're talking about leadership and the advocacy related to agriculture, one of the big things that you started was Ag for All. So tell me where that idea sparked from.
So I was the first president of Ag for All, and Ag for All does ag adventures at the 4th of July celebration, bringing in livestock, educating people, all types of people in Greenfield, Fontenelle, and Messina when they have their 4th of July celebration, and then they still do their Ag in the Classroom piece. You might see Who's Your Iowa Farmer on Facebook. A lot of those posts get shared really, really wide outside of the U.S. even, and so people that don't even know these individuals are seeing these stories and hearing about Iowa agriculture. It really started as, how can we connect these kids to the Ag in the Classroom piece and have a dedicated effort with it? It started with an Ag Works committee with Extension and some of the other commodity groups within Adair County. And then we decided it was time to incorporate so that we could reach more people through a nonprofit status. And with that, I was lucky enough to be the chairperson of that and help guide through that process.
That's great. And I want to shift gears here really quick and do just a couple of rapid fire questions to get to know you a little bit better. I don't need a whole lot of context. You can just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. So what is the weirdest thing you found in a field?
Antlers, of course, are always weird, but then sometimes you'll find some piece of car that somebody has thrown off the road and it's gotten into the field. So that's probably the weirdest.
Why do people do that? Why do they discard things in fields? Like, just figure it out, man. What's most often playing in your tractor cab?
540 radio, so the old countries are usually what's on in the tractor. Yep.
What food always makes it into your lunchbox during harvest?
Granola bars, because they're quick and easy, and you can eat them for breakfast if you need a snack right away at 10 o'clock, or if you need to eat it at 2 o'clock.
It is a multi-purpose food, absolutely. What's a mistake you can laugh about now, but definitely didn't laugh about then?
This goes back to when I was showing pigs, and we were just getting into clipping pigs at the time and the industry changing and everything. And the clipper fell off and it cut the hair way too short. And so now I look back and I chuckle. At the time, it was not funny. So
had like its own little like reverse mohawk going on.
Exactly right. Yep.
Very nice. What's a phrase or saying you live by?
Do it right and do it every day.
And then what's your earliest memory of being on the farm?
I remember unloading corn. We pick ear corn for our cows, and I remember unloading ear corn with my grandpa. Dad was out picking, and then that was my job, was to help grandpa pick up all the corn that missed the elevator. So
I love that. Because like that is such a quintessential kid job, right?
Exactly
like,
right.
I messed up, like you go pick it up.
Yep. And we loved it too. We didn't think about it.
I know. That's like my kids love picking up like rocks in the field, and they would pick up every single rock. We have to be like, no, not that one.
Right.
So kids, they're built different, right?
Yep.
But, you know, we've talked so much about your leadership, where you put your efforts, all the things that you do to give back. And as part of this award, we grant you money to give to another nonprofit. Can you tell me who you decided to choose for that?
Yeah, so I picked a local organization in Corning, Norvell's People in Need, and it started with a local coffee group of guys that saw the needs of the community. So they started just pitching in their own money, and it's grown into a larger organization, but it's still the same coffee group that has done it. And Norvell Health was a big proponent of giving back, and so that's why it's called Norvell's People in Need, is because he passed away. And so these farmers, they see a need within the community, and they go figure out how they can help with it. It might be paying for gas for somebody to get to medical treatments, or a winter coat, or somebody that their LP ran out and they don't have the funds, so they go and make sure that that is secured. And so they They're just a group of guys. They don't look for any recognition with it, and they want to make sure that people are taken care of. They've stepped in a lot of times when people don't even know. So I picked them to go ahead and use those funds however they want to. And it's kind of how I live my life in the background and try to make sure everybody's lives are better. And so this group is a really good group to highlight that as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you talked about them not wanting the recognition and you made comments that were similar, like, it's great, but we're doing this just because it needs to get done. That's such a great philosophy, and it seems like you're so entrenched in your community. I can tell you truly want the best for your community. So I'm just curious about what types of experiences you had growing up here that you're like, you know what, I need to turn around and I need to be able to support people and give back.
All through high school, I was involved in lots of different things. At that time, livestock production was on the decline in Adams County, and the hog buildings and some of those larger facilities was really looked down upon. And it was a group of farmers, and Farm Bureau was involved as well, was to highlight some of the younger individuals and how they are contributing with it. So another farm kid that lives still here in Adams County and farms, he and I were highlighted and what we do. But then part of that was to go out and see what the community all is about. And so I think that experience really drove home that if we want Corning and Adams County to continue to thrive, we are the smallest county, we really need to put in our efforts. That other classmate of mine, he's really big into the cattlemen with all these organizations, really trying just to make sure that we do survive and bring people in, one, for job security with the school, but then also to make sure that Corning and Adams County doesn't die because of the lack of population.
Yeah. And working with your students, do you recommend to them how important it is to get involved?
Yes, it's kind of fun. My kids have really had a big focus on farm safety here the last few years. We've worked with the Iowa Center for Agricultural Safety and Health, ICASH, received a few grants with that, and this summer they're working on personal protective kits to hand out to farmers. These kids are not kids to seek recognition or anything, but they want to showcase what our FFA chapter has been doing. And they've asked if they can go present at the Midwest region conference and really show off. So planting a little bit of seed as you go through, and then be an example for them to be involved and do showcase those types of things. Just make sure that they have the opportunities as well and provide them all the support, just like all the other people in my life that has supported me, to make sure that I can do whatever I need to do to get done.
Well, that's it. You've convinced me. I'm going to have to move to Corning now.
Yes.
That is just a great pitch for, people being there for each other and helping each other out. And obviously you exemplify that. You talked about how your family steps in for you a lot on the farm when you're doing all these other great things in the community, like serving and working with students. But what keeps you doing the family farm piece when they could take it over for you? But it seems like that's still a really important part of who you are.
It really gives me an opportunity to get back to my roots and be able to experience the everyday life. And I really enjoy spending a few hours driving a tractor, hauling in hay, mindless work, and just going through the motions and just spending that time out there in nature, going out and working with the cattle and being able to see that next generation. So we always talk about farmers really liking the growth and development. And that's one thing that is always kind of nice. And then I also think about, if I didn't farm, who would I be? And I don't ever want to say that that's a defining factor of a person, but it is a piece of me, and I always want it to stay a piece of me. Even if at some point I'm not able to farm and I just have a garden, I'm still able to be an agriculturalist with that little piece of farming as well.
I hope you've enjoyed hearing from all three of our Young Farmer Leadership Award recipients, and learning what inspires them to keep doing what they love, farming and serving others. And if you're a young farmer, ages 18 to 35, we'd love to see you at the 2026 Young Farmer Conference, happening January 23rd and 24th at the Community Choice Convention Center in Des Moines. It's a great couple of days filled with learning, networking, and plenty of fun, with more than 500 young farmers from across the state in attendance. You can find all the details at iowafarmbureau.com/YFC. We also want to take a moment to thank and congratulate all the Farm Bureau leaders who joined us at the annual meeting and county leadership conference this week. You are truly the backbone of our organization, and we're proud to work on your behalf. Be sure to join us for our next regularly scheduled episode of the Spokesman Speaks on December 22nd. And as always, thank you for doing the work that inspires everything we do here at the Iowa Farm Bureau. And thanks for listening to the Spokesman Speaks.
Thank you for listening to The Spokesman Speaks, a podcast by Iowa Farm Bureau. Check out more podcast episodes at iowafarmbureau.com/podcast. You can also find and subscribe to the Spokesman Speaks podcast in the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and other popular podcast apps. We appreciate your ratings and reviews, and we welcome you to email us your feedback at podcast@ifbf.org.